Welcome to the SwimSwam podcast. I'm your host, Coleman Hodges. Joining me today, we've talked to him before. He's a good friend. He's coming at us from Loughborough University. He's an NCAA champion from NC State. He was a member of the London Roar, where he won multiple races in season 1 and 2 of the ISL. And today, we are talking about emotional intelligence with Andreas Vazaios.
Hello. Thanks for having me.
It's always fun talking to you. We posted on our Instagram story a week or two back about this project that you're doing for school. And it's super interesting because it's super applicable to being a human being, to being an athlete. It's all about emotional intelligence. Before we get started, if you want to check out Andreas's blog, it is called masteryofyouremotions.blogspot.com. That is masteryofyouremotions.blogspot.com. So without further ado, Andreas, tell me about, you went to Loughborough you're getting your master's. How did you come upon this topic, and what have you learned since diving into it?
So it's just the first idea of going to sports psychology came around high school. I had my first class as an elective in psychology, and I started thinking how I can apply it to like sports. It was my dream since high school to try to find a job that I can apply sports into it. So I was debating between sports management and or like physiotherapy, I think, or like sports science in general, to be a coach. But those were it didn't fit right. Didn't feel like it was something that I actually want to do. So I had that for elective, and then I started thinking maybe I should apply psychology and do like sports psychology. So back in the day, I just started Googling, trying to like figure out if that actually exists or if it's just something that I just came up because I didn't know. And I saw that it was actually something that it was feasible to actually be a degree and actually work on that. and I saw that it had to be like go straight forward to master's, so it wouldn't be able to actually do it in an undergrad. So I was like, okay, what's the first step then? Taking undergrad in majoring psychology. So I started like planning ahead. So I kind of knew what I wanted to do, and I was fortunate to do that because I heard a lot of back there, and like still in the undergrad, a lot of my teammates or classmates, they were trying to figure out things and how to do their passion and how to apply their passion into like a future job. So that's why I always felt like fortunate that I actually knew that I wanted to be a sports psychologist. And then the dream started this past September, and it has been great since. I still remember the first lecture that I had. I was so excited, and it just blew my mind of like the application of the degree and literally everything. Because in first class, the professor took the chance to actually talk us through the degree in general. And its applications not only in sports but also to clinical populations, because the full title is sports and exercise psychology. So basically is how we can apply exercise and physical activity into our everyday lives, and these are the benefits. And the other extent is the sports is more about like the elite athletes, the performances, how we can enhance the performance, what are some limitations that about like stress, for example, or anything that can just like affect our performance. So that's part of one of my assignments. We were talking about how we can use social media to influence others and have how to have impact, just not like having interaction, but have that interaction through social media. And that's how I chose the topic of like emotional intelligence because it's just we were talking in one of the lectures about emotions in general and about stress and how these they interact with each other. And both of these topics is something that I want to do in my dissertation as well in the long run, maybe next year. So that's why I starting to do more research right from the beginning to have like a the first ground, like to set the ground in a way of how I can actually research and how I can do something different to be helpful for future generations of athletes and for myself as well.
Yeah. I mean, that's I love that you know, even as a high schooler, you were like, I kind of have this idea of what I want to do. And you tried a few different things and you're like, those didn't really work. I wonder if this is a thing. And then you sought it out and it turned out it was a thing that people study. And I think
Yeah.
a lot of kids don't realize that and don't have the curiosity or the courage to just say, oh, maybe I should try this, maybe I should try that. I think that's super important to do when you're kind of figuring out what it is that you want to pursue in life at a young age.
No, absolutely, absolutely. I even said that to like during the undergrad back at NC State. I had an internship through the with the counseling center of NC State, and what we did was like peer education. So we were going to classes in order to give presentation about various topics concerning mental health. And what I was saying to, or at least trying to say in every presentation was that it's okay if you don't know what you want to do, like, and I like that the American system has that, so you're not obliged to have a major up until your junior year, like entering your junior year. That gives you plenty of time, that gives you 4 semesters, 2 years in order to actually go through various topics and like various sciences, and to see where you fit in and how you can change that. Because sometimes, as for example with sports and exercise psychology, it wasn't something that I could actually take it and have it as a major from my through my undergrad. So I learned that it's something that I will need like an extra time, and have like an extra degree, maybe do a PhD later as well. But um, it's just sometimes it doesn't come straight away. It needs a little bit more time. You have to be more patient, and at least you don't have to be afraid of changing ideas and changing your beliefs and your goals, because that's really life in general, I think.
Agreed. And like you said, yeah, that having that flexibility can be a huge relief on your mental health, on just your state of being, because there is so much pressure as a young person, especially to be like, okay, where do I fit in? I need to find my place so I can contribute to society. And I think, yeah, it's certainly in the American system,
Definitely.
you don't have to do that for a while, and there is that flexibility. You know, my first year of college, I changed my major twice, and because
Wow.
that's such an important learning period of just what do I like, what don't I like, where do I fit, where don't I fit. So that's
Yeah.
I love that you did that and that was a part of your process. But
Yeah.
okay, let's talk about the
Okay.
blog now. uh,
So how it started. So I don't know. Throughout my experience, like in sports, I have seen the long-term effect of like being active in general. Like we all know that improves your health, like reduces risk of like chronic disease, like builds endurance, which is something that we need, like even for the daily things, or like go to the grocery, or just like climb the stairs. But exercise is not just the about the aerobic capacity and the muscle size. It's sure like exercise can improve your physical health, like and our physique. But people who exercise regularly tend to do so because it gives them an enormous sense of well-being. Like they feel more energetic throughout the day, like sharp, like they have like they sleep better at night, or like have sharper memories and feel more relaxed and positive about themselves and like their lives in general. Um, so I try to apply that like more specifically to athletes and how we can enhance that like our performance. And they're like various mental strategies such as like visualization or like self-talk or like relaxation techniques that it can actually help athletes overcome obstacles and achieve their full potential and cope through pressure, like with pressure out of competition. So I want to like that applies to like coping strategies and coping skills. Coping strategies are like they're constantly changing, like their cognitive or behavioral efforts to manage specific demands that we have. It might be internal, but also it can be external as well. And they're like existing resources like to each person. So it's more individualistic. There are like specific coping strategies that apply more to some people and others that they don't. As for example, um, um, the, well, like the type of strategies adopted by each person to cope with stress is considered to be part of the vulnerable profile of that person. So for example, as it says, like humor or like seeking support or relaxation, or even it's just adjusting our expectation. And one of them is also emotional intelligence. So by definition, emotional intelligence, as I said in the blog as well, is the ability to observe our feelings and emotions, um, differentiate them between like differentiating feelings and emotions because it's just something different, and then try to apply that um, and to our like interactions with ourselves but with others as well. So what I did was like trying to think emotional intelligence as a coping mechanism, and it can actually facilitate the stress and can use in like an effective self-regulation system while encountering stress. So, for example, like there are research showing that individuals with higher emotional intelligence tend to use more coping strategies, whereas people with low emotional intelligence they try to avoid stress. An example to that would be if someone is afraid of giving a speech, or like in general public speaking. If he has a class that the final exam will be giving a speech, he will probably, or she will probably drop out of this class because he won't have the I want to say courage, for example, like to go through the stress and like give the final exam. Um, so that's what I wanted to do. So like I wanted to investigate the relationship between emotional intelligence and its own elements, but also coping strategies and the extent of the emotional intelligence in order to predict the coping strategies that we use in stressful situations. And more specifically, I want to see that between like the conflict of being a student athlete after the four, and still I still consider myself like a student athlete. I've seen there is a lot of conflict, and there's like you have to prioritize one or the other. It depends of the period of the season, or like change the balance between of them. So I think a lot of time it creates some conflict and a lot of stress of what should I do, or like should I ask my coach to have the morning practice off because I have a really big test that it can bump my grade up. Or the other way, do I talk to my professor to give me an extension, maybe a week, because I have NCAAs, and it will be really helpful to actually focus on NCAAs because it happens once or it cannot happen. Let's go flashback last year because of COVID. So yeah, that's pretty much what it was. I tried to have like my first blog about that to see how like what the interaction would be with people if it was something that will like people would like and would be interested in that, have some feedback, and at the same time I want to try to continue with the blog and still like writing different topics as well to just to um, try to help and try to contribute more with like future generation of athletes, but and in general as a psychologist later on.
Hmm. Yeah.
Too much.
No. Sorry. I'm looking at the blog right now. It's
Okay.
super
Yeah.
interesting.
Thank you.
Your first post from November, it has a lot and it's pretty dense and it's so cool. Because it's just talking about emotional intelligence and what that means and how it affects us.
Yeah.
So, sorry, I'm
No worries.
focused.
Yeah, that's good.
So when you wrote this first blog post, what is, for our listeners, sum it up. What was the point of this first post, and what reactions did you get from it?
So the main topic was like a lot of people, they're not aware that emotional intelligence is something that we can build on. So even though we can identify our emotions, sometimes it's really hard to regulate. It's to manage them. We're so conditioned in our routines and in our everyday life, and most of the time we just forget the basics. And I think emotional intelligence was something. It is something basic, and is as important as, for example, like IQ. Really, like going through like research and stuff, I really read something that stuck in my head. Like people would hire, like a corporation will hire you if you have high IQ, but you going to move up the organization, like the company or whatever, if you have high like EQ, the emotional intelligence. And that's just because when you we interact with ourselves and with others like daily and constantly. So knowing how to manage ourselves and our emotions. An extreme example would be you getting mad and you want to just start breaking stuff. Like knowing how to control yourself from that and know how to like calm yourself down before you do something like to the extreme. That's really important. So that was the topic: how to be able to identify that there is a trait, and that's the name of emotional intelligence. And it's not something that you are inherent, but you can also like evolve it and make it even better and like learn from that. And how you use that in your daily life to everything. It literally goes to your interaction with your family, up to your interaction with your coach, or with your employees or employers. It really touches like a big range. Um, so yeah, I really had like some really good feedback. People really enjoy it. I remember had a couple comments that people didn't know how to actually put like what they were doing, but actually in words, which is something really important. Knowing how to say like what you do and what you do with yourself is it just helps the process to maintain and have like to set the ground in order to evolve later on. Some But yeah, I think it was the beginning. So a lot of people were not able to actually or didn't want to actually go through the whole blog. So I hope that the next one will be more like interesting in a way to like actually more people get involved.
Yeah.
We'll see.
We'll see. I mean, yeah. So, I mean, for a first blog, it seemed, introductory, and it seemed like it kind of did its purpose and it got some people engaged.
Yeah.
But, I mean, you said emotional intelligence. It's something you're, like you said, you consider yourself a student athlete. You're certainly still an athlete, certainly still a
Yeah.
student. I mean, put it on an individual level. How do you interact with your emotional intelligence on a day-to-day basis, especially balancing, being an Olympic level athlete, pursuing a master's degree? I mean,
Yeah.
how is this, how is emotional intelligence important and applicable in your day-to-day life?
So a lot of one of the things that I really struggled and it took me a while to actually be able to do more often, is self-care. So actually, just take care of yourself. It sounds so simple, but it's so difficult, especially trying to manage studying for a master's degree, and as you said, training for Olympics. And I think sometimes I was mixing up emotions, or out of like I wasn't able to move on after like a bad practice, or try to forget, or try to avoid thinking about like a bad race. Whereas after starting evolving my emotional intelligence, and like becoming more in touch with myself in general, like my mind and my psychology behind the blocks, I learned to turn the negatives to positives. So and embrace negative feedback from my coach, or even for myself, like be more specific to what I think that affect my performance in class, but also in the pool as well, and try to turn the table, and then work for it. So the next time that I have the opportunity, I won't mess it up, and I won't do the same mistakes. And to try to learn from that and evolve every day and every time that I have the opportunity. And I think that's the main goal after it, how to be able to be better with yourself first, and then with others. Because as I said, we have so many interactions every day with our like teammates, with our roommates, with our classmates, with our family, friends, partners, everything. So I think it just, it's really important for like daily.
Yeah. But I mean, my takeaway from that is that it starts with you, right? It's not about
Yeah.
how you're swimming or how you're studying. It just starts with focusing on you and being kind of more open towards yourself and letting yourself have those feelings, whether they're positive or negative,
Yeah,
and then
exactly.
kind of sitting with those and moving forward.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. Because it will sound basic, but like if you don't love yourself, how can you love someone else? And that applies to like body image, or your failures, or anything that you have regrets, for example, on. So I think besides emotional intelligence, that applies more in general for mental health. Like you have to like be okay, and like you have to love yourself, take care of yourself, and then be able to take care of others. I think a great example is like when we are on a plane, in the plane, and they give the security procedure. They say that with the mask, to like put the mask to yourself first and then to someone else, because if you don't take care of yourself first, you're not going to be able to help someone else. So yeah, I think it's something important. And a lot of times, as I said, because we're so conditioned to be focused on what we have to do every day, our plan, our jobs, our like what we're gonna eat, our like family and everything. And lots of times we forget about ourselves, like having a break. And that's why a lot of times we just have those like breakdowns, even emotional, but also physical as well. Like it applies, it can like interact with each other. So if you don't take care of your mental health, your body won't be able to keep up, like for a longer period of time. So at some point it will break down. And that's when we see, for example, people try to contemplate suicide, or harm themselves, or they're not able to, like they have like anxiety or depression, that they're not able to like take a step. And that's when you actually have to take a deeper breath and have the courage to ask for help and seek for help. And I think it's really important to say that, like, if you feel that there's an emergency, if you feel that you don't feel comfortable and you need to talk with someone, it can be for anything simple. Like if you feel that is important, then you actually should talk with like a mental health professional and see how that it can affect you, and like see how you can develop and be better. It's just better be safe than sorry. Just to talk with someone, even others believe that it's not important, and you feel that it affects your daily life as it goes. It just doesn't bother, and they're out there, they're ready to help, and it's the job, and they're willing to do that.
That's that's sage wisdom. I think we've heard more and more athletes come out and talk about how important this is. Certainly, Michael Phelps, Allison Schmidt, big proponents of mental health.
Yeah.
So, I mean, that's obviously the tip of the iceberg, but it's cool to sit down and talk about and hear your thoughts on it, and see your studies again. If you want to check out Andreas's blog, masteryofyouremotions.blogspot.com, masteryofyouremotions.blogspot.com. We'll have to do another checkup and talk and get more into the nitty gritty of some of this emotional intelligence stuff, because obviously I think you could talk about it all day. I'm certainly interested in to talk for more hours.
It's my passion. It's my new passion for sure. Yeah.
That's awesome. So before we wrap up, we've got about 10 minutes, and I want to just do a check-in with you as Andreas the swimmer now.
Yeah.
Not Andreas the student. So, we've reported that the UK is, as you said before when we were talking, fairly fragile right now, especially with pools. What is your situation just on a day-to-day basis in terms of practicing at Loughborough?
So I'm fortunate that our pool is still open, so we can train. The bad part is that almost 3/4 of the team, they're not able to train just because of more strict regulations. The coaches decided to do so and take the really difficult decision just to protect themselves as well, but also not to crush the whole team and have incidents, new cases. So I'm still training, which is good, and we're actually going to have our first competition the second weekend of February. We're going to Manchester, which was something great. I'm so happy that we're going to race again. But at the same time, I'm in a difficult situation, whereas we are the next ones to get excluded if things are not getting more go the downside now, especially with the vaccine. They expect to have less cases per day, but they haven't showed that yet. So the numbers are still pretty high. Once they touch 62,000 new cases per day, and then I think last week we almost touched it. We almost had 2,000 deaths for the whole country, not in Loughborough. I don't want to scare anyone. But yeah, I think the numbers are really high in general. And with the new adaptation of the virus, it's still everything is so fragile. And I'm trying to be as updated as possible in order to protect myself, and in order to take any hard decision that I have to, for example, leave the country and go back to Greece. At this moment, it's quite difficult to do that. And I hope that if, knock on wood, I will need that, the door will still open, with flights, and having only to quarantine only for 10 days, and it won't go up as it is. And I hope that if I won't be able to swim here in England, I will be able to swim back in Greece. So it's still a lot to debate, a lot to juggle. So I try to take it day by day. Try to protect myself first as much as I can. Sanitize anything that I touch, even at the gym, wearing mask. And after I use an equipment, I just clean it so the next person can use it, and then before I use another one, I just clean it just in case. I think that's the golden rule. Sanitize anything and stay clean as possible for that and wear a mask for sure. But yeah, it's just I think too much for everyone. And now that they opened again the gates, that the possibility that Olympic Games will might be canceled, that was a little bit harsh, but still, I'm keeping my high and my expectations high and my head up, just to train every day and be as ready as possible to deal with any obstacle that comes in the way, and then just wish that Olympic Games will actually happen this year and they won't gonna get canceled, so we can actually have the magic of Olympic Games again and get something like have like a wide day, like a bright day in this mess, chaos. It's a more proper word.
Yeah, I mean, I kind of thought, oh, we've got a vaccine, like things will start getting better, and things are getting kind of better, but they're also it kind of, getting worse, and
Yeah,
it's very chaotic, as you said, but hopefully there's some light eventually.
definitely.
So uh, these last couple months for you, again, just as a swimmer, you came off of ISL. Have you raced since then at all?
We had some stand-ups during practice. So I did a two free 100 fly and then 100 free. Kind of like at the end of the week, and like a hard week, we just did that just to see where you're at. Had some good feedback out of like time wise and from like technique as well.
Hmm.
So I think that's something that I'm trying to do right now. They say that it's just hard to learn to teach an old dog new tricks. So at this moment, it's just really working on the details every day in each stroke, because my main event is the 2 a.m. So I have to be as perfect as possible in each stroke. And then again, I completely changed my start. It was something that I was struggling a lot. So now with my coach Andy and the help of technology, we just have like a lot of videos, a lot of footage of like just dive step by step to break down and analyze the technique, and how to just be faster right from the beginning, and just to save up sometimes, because as we go higher, like with the expectations, you just have to be as perfect as possible, even in the small details. I'd be hearing that even while doing with like working with Braden. That's what it taught us. He taught us to like work on every detail, and then just push the wall every time with passion and like um, just with dedication that you're going to win. And I think that applies to like our goals in general. We have to take it step by step and just try daily for the best.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, as I said, I think it's just really hard. Everything is so fragile right now. So I'm trying to be as great as possible, like in every practice, and try to push myself even harder in order to be better, faster.
Are you able to train in the pool with others?
Yes, we. I think we are almost 2022 from our group. I have a training partner for the 2 a.m. James, and he's pushing me as well. So which is great. But at the same time, we know that not all the coaches are on pool deck every day. They try to rotate and try to change. They are in a really difficult position to just to protect themselves and the team as well. So we've changed, for example, our time schedule a couple times already, and they said that we're gonna do the same if that's what it takes in order to keep the pool running. And if new regulations from the country come next, then they'll probably have to take like even more difficult like ways to try to protect us and keep us training as much as possible. So yeah. No.
Well, Andreas, it's always good talking to you. I appreciate the check-in and the enlightenment on emotional intelligence.
Appreciate it. Hope that it actually helped.
Before we go, any parting thoughts that you'd like to share about any of our conversation or just things moving forward?
No, I think it's just as I said, it's really important to take day by day, and I think it's really an important role just to wake up and smile and try to overcome and go with what the new regulations say. So I think it's just really important just to not be part of the chaos, but try to be part of like your own bubble first, in a way. That makes sense. A little bit.
Dude, yeah, be a part of your own bubble makes, I think, more sense now than it ever has.
Yeah, I think so.
Well, again, thanks a lot for taking the time,
you.
Andreas. I really appreciate it.
Absolutely, my pleasure. Thank you so much.
You've been listening to the SwimSwam podcast. Stay tuned for new episodes every week. You can take SwimSwam podcast on the go by subscribing on your favorite podcast platform. Look for links in the description below, and be sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel for more videos as well.